So index funds, or what is also commonly known as passive funds. If you actually do a quick search of the term index funds on online forums in India, you get questions like, the usual mutual fund question, which is the top index fund to invest in. What are the pros and cons of investing in an index fund? But also we get a question which asks, what is an index fund? So a lot of people have turned towards passive investing, but a lot of them at the end of the day don't understand index construction, right?
Right.
So welcome to another episode of This Is Your Fund Manager Speaking, where we talk about all things indices and we break it down for you. We decided the best thing to do is to actually have a conversation with someone who has spent pretty much his entire working life dealing with these indices, right? From CRISIL to BSE to S&P Dow Jones. Mahavir Kaswa has seen it all, and now he's heading passive fund research at Motilal Oswal Asset Management. Thank you so much, Mahavir, for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, and let's talk about all things indices today.
Thanks, Nitin, for me having you. Great.
Pleasure. So I'm going to ask you the first question right off the bat, Mahavir. What is an index, right? What is an index and how is it relevant to anyone who's looking to invest? Forget passive investing for a moment, but even for an active investor, what is an index and how relevant is it actually to them?
Sure. So index is not something new that we see in the market. We have seen Sensex for like about 3 to 4 decades so far. But let's take a very everyday example. Like we check our temperature by thermometer, right? Isn't it an index? Like it just helps us to understand the temperature of our body,
Right.
and so is an index. What I like this analogy pretty much. So because if you see the Sensex, for example, or a Nifty 50 or Nifty 500, what they do is that they help us to understand the overall sentiment of the market, where it is going. If there's a scenario where there is no index at all, how would you understand the market direction? The maximum you could probably do is look at just a portfolio and probably guess where the market is going, and that might be absolutely wrong guess. Like let's say you have a very considered portfolio, and which is probably just going up, and it is pretty obvious for someone to make an opinion that a market is going up, but which actually in an overall sense is not the case, because the other investors in the market probably are experiencing losses. So the index actually as an overall concept helps investors to understand overall direction of the market. The breakup of the indexes into size and sectors actually further added a few dimensions in terms of understanding. While I understand the Nifty 50 or Nifty 500 are going up, but which sector or which size is pulling the market up or down? That really help us investor to make an informed decision. So index is nothing but a rule-based portfolio, pretty much like your portfolio. The objective of the index is to represent the market and measure the market.
So you have different types of indices, right? Like the large cap index, a small cap index, and there could be times based on what the economy is doing. The large cap index, which is a barometer of larger companies in India, could be doing really well. But at the same time, the mid cap index or a small cap index, which consists of smaller companies in India, could be doing not so well at that time as well, right? So there could be a disconnect between the different indices which are out there as well, right?
Absolutely. In fact, if you remember, like a couple of years before, we have seen a drastic disconnect between the large cap and mid and smaller cap companies, where that's been one of the rare situation I have, at least in my career, seen where the correlation has gone down pretty much. Generally, the correlation is in 90s for the large, mid, small.
Right.
But this, if I'm not wrong, went to up to 80% of kind of thing. So, which is a very exceptional thing. But yeah, we have seen that period.
Okay, so which essentially is giving you an indicator. So if you were to think of an index as, like you said, an indicator of what is happening to the economy, it is kind of giving you a sense that larger companies are in a position to do better or are doing better in a market environment or in an economic environment compared to a smaller company in India, right? Is that fair to say so?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely fair, yeah.
All right. So you had passive fund research at Motilal Oswal, Mahavir. But passive investing is basically investing in an index, right? And an index is already built, right? So as someone who is heading passive research, what exactly do you do?
That's a very interesting question, by the way. So when you do an index investing, what is the core of the passive funds is finding the right index, finding the right strategy, and finding the right index for that. So what do I mean by right index? there are many indices in the market, but what is more important is to have a index that is exactly catering to the objective that you want to offer to the investors. That is number one. Number two, also the index that you choose has to be reasonably liquid. When I say reasonably liquid, because there are some chances that a mid and small caps portion probably may have some issues with liquidity, but at least it should have a very comfortable zone for the fund manager where he can easily buy and sell the redemption or purchase request that they're in the market. So finding the right index is a very crucial thing, and which probably is one of the small job that I do. I think I also spent a great amount of time since my days in the Motilal Oswal in studying the asset allocations. What we have found is that if you have a right asset allocation, I think your portfolio can be protected with a drawdowns. Like I am not saying that protected in the sense that you would probably not experience zero negative returns, but more importantly, what is important, what I mean to say is that you could probably reduce or restrict the losses that you would experience, or the number of days you are into negative zone, or the percentage that you experience. So, like for example, Nifty 500 fell about 65% during the financial crisis.
Right.
But if you had a asset allocation which is getting to your need, probably you could restrict to maybe 50% or 40%, depending on the asset allocation that you adopt. So we spent a great amount of time creating a lot of asset allocation models, which we are now. I mean, like as a part of education, we have been using those models and interacting with the advisors or the HNI clients, and stressing upon that a lot. Another interesting thing that we do and we need to do is a product ideation. They have been, if you see, Motilal Oswal launch about 6 to 7 index funds in last 6 months.
Right.
And the idea was to actually create a complete bouquet of products in the equity side. And we believe that with the current offerings that we have in the shelf, we have completed that offering. We recently completed a very successful NFO of Motilal Oswal S&P 500 Index Fund. That was another international offering that we did. Product ideation, studying different asset allocation models, and researching on the indexes that probably might be very good or interesting for the investors in terms of offering investment solution are few of the things that we do on a daily basis.
Right. So which means that these are based on indices which are already available in the market that has been created by, let's say ISL or, S&P or someone like that, right?
Yes, many times you want to choose an index that is already available, but sometimes if you want a few things to be adjusted to a particular index or strategy, you might probably want to create a new index. As a part of my previous stint in the indexing thing, I have worked with many clients where we created different types of indices which cater to their exact investment objective that they wanted to do.
Okay.
The major time spent was on the factor indices.
Right. All right. So we'll get to the future of what you're doing a little while down. But let's try and break down the indices bit a little bit more for our viewers, right? So when an index is being constructed by one of these index creators, they follow a certain set criteria of rules, right? Which says that it has to meet certain liquidity measures or many other factors that it may have to meet, market capitalization, in order to come into a particular index, right? And I think but now in terms of the exit from an index, right? How is that decided? Because I was looking at some of the data, and the S&P 500, the US methodology rulebook actually says that the addition criteria are just for addition to an index, but not for continued membership. So you could still find stocks in an index that do not meet an addition criteria anymore, but are there in the index and are just languishing there just because they've already, by virtue of already having entered it before. Right. So how do you now kind of, figure out in terms of, are there any rules for setting an exit for a particular stock from an index? Who decides that and how does that work?
If you see in general, most of the indexes do have entry and exit criteria, rightly in terms of market cap, liquidity, or some attribute that a particular index want to represent. Taking an example of S&P 500, what they do is that the S&P 500 is a very legacy index, and it's been managed by the index committee. Index committee, while there are no clear-cut exit criteria in the methodology document, what their priority is to keep the index portfolio the most liquid and most representative. If you see, S&P 500 has been the most diversified index and one of the most liquid index. And it is very important to have a liquidity because the amount of asset that is tracking globally is enormous. And if because a simple virtue of a criteria, if a particular stock comes in with a relatively less liquidity, it might probably create a problem for the investors. So yes, there are some elements of active decision making, but typically that has been taken care by index committee, which is very experienced and in the market. And all the index committee members are typically employees of the company itself. So in terms of uh, transparency, it has been maintained.
Okay. So Mahavir, you said that you did mention that there's some bit of an active element there, right? So essentially the BSE 500's churn, if you actually look at it, it's a really 12% churn, every year. So basically you're seeing around 60 companies out of the 500 companies getting
Right.
replaced in
Right.
the index every year, right? Now you did mention that there are certain set criteria maybe for looking at an exit as well, but it's not as stringent as looking at an entry into the index, right?
Yeah.
So there is a bit of active judgment that the committee that you spoke of has to make in order to kind of decide whether it actually warrants an exit or not, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So in fact, I can give you a couple of examples which are public. Like Satyam scam, if you remember, the Satyam when the Ramalinga Raju actually accepted
Right.
the wrongdoings in the company.
Right.
Very next day or within the same week itself, all the index provider in India actually dropped Satyam from the indices. Now, this drop was not a part of a index methodology. There was no rule to actually take care of such things.
Right.
So there are a lot of elements in the markets which probably cannot preempt and have a rule for that.
Right.
Good index provider is expected to have a transparent and objective methodology, but there are and for that reason, actually, there are entry and exit rules that have been preset. There are also rules for the corporate action, how they handle the corporate action also. But issues such as Satyam cannot be taken care of. You cannot anticipate or preempt something like that, and you cannot have a rule for that.
Right.
Another interesting that we studied during my one of the stint in the market is we noticed that one of the company into top 100 got extremely liquid. It used to hit the low circuit almost every day, and that actually created a problem of buying a basket of index stocks for the fund manager. And because of that thing, actually index committee took an active call to drop the stock in from the index in between the two rebalances.
Okay.
So the rebalancing happens generally 6 months, 6 months, every 6 months. But this stock was dropped in between the two rebalances.
Okay. And I'm sure there are lots of other stocks in the index which people question. Like for example, I won't name the companies, but stocks in the Nifty Next 50, and people wonder when they'll go out. But somehow they end up being there for a longer period of time because, like you said, usually the rebalancing happens every 6 months, right?
That's very important. Yeah. So this is a very obvious thing that a lot of time people do ask me, like, how come you have this stock or that stock in the index? The problem is that if a particular stock qualifies as per the rules of an index inclusion or exclusion, typically that stock has to be in the index unless a very rare kind of situation happens like Satyam or an extreme illiquidity of a stock. One cannot just take an active call and to drop that stock from the index.
Right. Fair enough. So there is the index creator, and then there is you who's feeding into that with a passive fund as well, right? So only if the index creator makes that change can you also ideally make that change, right?
As in passive for product provider, we don't have any control over the inclusion and exclusion of our stocks in
Right.
in or from the index.
Right. But you did mention earlier, Mahavir, that you can look at creating your own indices as well to meet the requirements of clients, right? In that case, and if you have a passive fund that is feeding into that particular index, then it becomes entirely your choice and you're not dependent on someone else to make changes, correct?
The one of the basic core criteria of a passive fund is to have an index that has been managed by third party and not been controlled by us.
Okay.
What we do, as in when I said what I mean is like we work with the index provider to explain the strategy that we want, but ultimately the methodology is owned and governed by them. So, like for example, I can give an example. Let's say if there is no momentum index in the market, or for example, if there is no quality index in the market, and I want an product to be on the quality passive product on the quality stocks, I could probably approach a particular index provider and work with them to get that index out. we could have some exchange of thoughts in terms of what do you mean by quality, because being in the market, you are sometimes index provider want to also interact with us, but ultimate ownership of a methodology and governance of a methodology is absolutely with them. And that is the most important thing of the passive investment. If we don't do that, then it doesn't remain the passive investing, because then it's an AMC's call of addition deletion. Then it's probably mostly a quant fund or a absolutely active strategy.
Right, fair enough. So you spoke a little bit about stocks making entry and exit. So I want to ask you a little bit about sectors as well, right? Because a lot of the times people have this question, okay, I'm investing in the index. I have, let's say the Nifty 50, I have 40% in financial services. I might as well just buy the banking index. So questions like that do often come up. And if you actually look at a slightly more diversified index, such as the Nifty 500, even in the Nifty 500, you actually have 30% in financial services, right? And I've been seeing reports, for example, in the S&P 500 in the US, which you mentioned is one of the most liquid, most commonly invested in passive index or fund in the US or in the world even. You're actually seeing a situation where tech stocks are now comprising close to 26%, if I'm not wrong, of the index, right? And this is actually the highest level at which it has gone to, tech as a percentage of the S&P 500, ever since the dot-com bubble, right? Now, I'm not trying to make any forecasts or any insinuations here, but there have been reports that index creators actually also actively look at the composition of the index from a sectoral perspective and try and ensure that it doesn't go overboard or cross certain thresholds, especially in a widely diversified index like the S&P 500. Is that a correct understanding?
I mean, yes and no, both. The basic criteria of an index is to represent the market as is, honestly. So if a particular sector or a stock is growing in the weights, I think that's fair enough, because that's how the market is. The market is. Like, for example, in India, we have seen the very high weight of financials in the most of the broad market indices, and that's how it is. Our service sector has a major contribution to the GDP, and we could see that IT and financials combined together is more than 50%.
Right.
Taking an example of S&P 500, yes, on a high level basis, committee do keep a track of sectoral diversification, but they don't stretch it beyond a point, in the sense that they probably might want to ensure that the index is diversified with all the sectors in the index. But if a particular sector is growing within the index, I think that's how the market is changing. If you see, there was a point in time, even in India, financials were pretty small compared to what we have seen today. And if we would have controlled the financials, then we would have seen the different market. So the point I'm trying to make here is that artificially controlling a particular weight, probably the index would lose the connection with the market.
Right.
So staying the market is more important. However, with the passive investing, index also used for the investments, and in such scenario, there are chances that one can actually create an index, the same index, with more restrictions in terms of concentration of a stocks or sector in the index.
Right. So then let me flip that around a little bit and ask you in relation to let's say COVID-19, right, which is a one-off instance. I don't want to use the word unprecedented, but something which has the potential to change the dynamics of investing in a lot of sectors. For example, like let's say airlines, right, where there's a lot of questions being raised over there. Does an index creator also now actively, because at the end of the day, we did say that there is a 12% churn in even the BSE 500, right? Does an index creator now actively look at a situation like this and say, okay, there is a possibility, because at the end of the day, everyone wants a good investing experience. And like you said, it has to be representative of the economy and what is happening. So if the index committee is of the view that, okay, these are changes that have long lasting effects, and they would rather be slightly more active in making changes, do they have that leeway to kind of say, okay, we are going to drop these certain sectors from, or reduce the weightage of these certain sectors from an index in order to give a better investing experience to even an index fund investor?
Actually, answer is no. There is no such thing in the indexing thing, wherein the particular index provider actually preempt that because of certain situation, certain sector or industry stocks should be dropped or the weight should be reduced. As I mentioned earlier, the basic principle of index is to represent the market. So until the stock or sector is actually worthy or the qualifying for the rules of the index, it will remain in the index. However, what I can actually bring to your attention is that if you notice, that's the beauty of the index, which is if a particular stock or sector actually is not relevant for the market, it will automatically go out of the index. Like for example, let's say sector which has been not relevant anymore at all, most likely is going to extend from the index of, let's say, Nifty 50, for example, because that's a more focused index, like a top 50 stocks only. So you would probably find that that stock or the sector is not anymore part of that index. We have seen a lot of changes in the sectors over last 15, 20 years as well. I mean, if we would just go for a particular broad-based index more specifically, we could see weights of energy or financials or IT changing drastically. There was a point we have seen IT being pretty high in terms of weight, but the weight is reduced because we have seen IT in facing some tough time in recent past. So you could see the weight actually reduce automatically. That's the beauty of the index.
Right. But these changes, when you say automatically, Mahavir, at the end of the day, these are changes which are also recommended and made by the index committee, right?
No. These changes are because the price movement. I mean, what I mean to say is that because the market is actually discounting those stocks or sectors that are not relevant. Like an example, airlines for a small period, probably if we all think that, well, I'm not making any opinion right now here, but as an example, if I take an airlines, and if we think that now most of the people are going to prefer digital meetings over the actual business meeting, physical business meeting,
Yeah.
you may find that the hotel stocks or airline stock might probably face a very bad times, and the valuation will erode, and that will actually click a exit from the index.
Fair enough. So that is essentially a trigger for the movement. The falling market capitalization, the falling
Yeah,
liquidity,
right,
everything else then becomes a trigger
right.
for it to move out of the index, right?
Exactly.
Fair enough. So now I want to ask another question over here, Mahavir, which proponents of active funds usually say, right, where they say that by the time an index gets to by the time a particular stock gets into an index, it's already achieved some level of maturity, which is why it's made its way into that index. So the best of that stock is behind it. The best years of that stock is behind it, right?
Right.
But I want to ask you, but at a time when index tracking and passive funds and index funds, when investments in these are just increasing, shouldn't that argument not hold good? And shouldn't these stocks which enter the index continue to see money flow as passive funds, continue to grow in size? And shouldn't the performance of these stocks continue to do better and not really fall off the cliff, as many active fund managers actually say?
So honestly, I really find it amusing, this kind of a statement. It is not the first time I'm hearing this. There have been people on the street talking that if particular stock has gone into index, then most likely it's not going to perform. This is a myth. I want to say. I mean, if this was not myth, then how can most of the large cap schemes actually did underperform the Nifty 50 index for last like quite a few years? I do follow SPIVA report, which is basically comparison of active schemes with the respective benchmarks. And what it shows is that most of the active schemes are actually failing to outperform the benchmarks. That sense actually answer the question, honestly speaking.
So SPIVA is essentially, for the people who don't know, that's basically the Dow Jones, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah.
the Dow Jones S&P index versus active report card,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So SPIVA stands for S&P indices versus active.
Right.
It's a SPIVA report which is published in India as well as in many other part of the world. It's extremely popular and very well tracked report, and it has a very consistent, unique methodology which has been followed globally.
Right. But Bhavir, I've also seen reports where, this is by CRISIL and AMFI, which suggests that active investing still works. So you have on the one hand a CRISIL and AMFI report which says active fund managers do perform better. And on the other hand, you have the SPIVA report which says that maybe not so much, right? So as an investor who's looking at the market and trying to gauge, because the interest is growing, as an investor who's trying to gauge active versus passive, what should someone basically do?
So honestly, I would refrain to comment on the CRISIL AMFI methodology because the report, because I haven't studied the methodology that they follow. However, what is important for me is to notice that passive investing offer a very easy, economic, and effective investment opportunity for the investors. When I say easy, is because even if you go for a large caps thing, there are so many options available, and you see the difference in the performance is a drastic. So ideally, a large cap scheme by itself shouldn't have major difference in the performance. So the problem is a choice of a right fund, and with the passive investing, we make that job extremely easy. The
Right.
promise here is to actually help you to earn returns that are very close to the market return.
Right.
Economical, because passive investing is an inexpensive investment product. Inexpensive investment product. If you see the difference between the expense ratio of a passive scheme and a similar category active scheme, there is about 1 to 1.5% difference, which you probably could add to your returns.
Right.
And effective because what I believe is that many times historically that is what at least we saw, that many times active fund managers do deviate from the scheme's objective in order to outperform
Right.
the market in a short or medium term, whereas passive in itself is in such a mechanism that index is reconstituted every 6 months and it is sticking to the rules. So there is a no risk of actually style drift from the passive investment.
Right.
And it really helps as an investor to have a right asset allocation for him. So for just to give an example, for example, let's say there is an investor who want to have an exposure to large caps, but there is a risk that a fund manager, active fund manager, might probably end up having a lot of mid caps into his portfolio. Now that has been restricted to 20% thanks to SEBI.
Right.
But earlier that there used to be quite a bit higher percentage allocation to that. So the risk that I, as an investor, I carry is that 20% of my portfolio is into mid cap, and which is not exactly I wanted. But in passive, you have a complete solution, like just buy Nifty 50 index fund that are in the market, and you are rest assured that the 100% of your investments into large caps.
Right.
So my strong belief is that a passive investment offer a very easy asset allocation, and that is very important. Yeah.
Right. And you also, as an investor, you don't have to worry about what to do when a fund manager leaves.
Oh, that's one of the important thing. Yeah. That's actually many investors don't pay attention to that. While I have seen advisors do take care of that thing, which is great.
Right.
I appreciate that. But investors don't really follow the fund managers and the exits and entries. So that's very crucial, by the way.
Right. So as a passive investor, you're not really, in your view, you're not missing out on anything. You're in fact better off in most
Precisely.
instances, right?
I would say like you get exactly what you want. I mean, that's
Right.
the most important thing. I mean, if I go to buy a particular specific specification of a car, I want that specification. I don't want anything less or higher,
Right.
and that's very important.
Fair enough.
And that too again with the economical cost.
Yeah, absolutely, Mahavir. So I'll end with one question, Mahavir. Thank you so much for all the knowledge that you've shared with us today. But one question which I would like to know, I'm sure people also would like to know, is you have launched quite a few index funds over the past few months, as you mentioned, but you're also constantly innovative and ideating and trying to see what next. Is there something in the pipeline that you can share with us that you're currently ideating on, or you think is a great fit for Indian investors today?
I mean, I think in the equity space, we have all the building blocks in the like, which includes large cap, mid cap, small cap, multi cap. A sector fund, which is the most liquid sector fund, is in bank as well.
Right.
So I think we finished our building block structure for the domestic Indian equities. We also have a couple of international offerings in terms of Motilal Oswal Nasdaq 100 ETF and Motilal Oswal S&P 500 Index Fund. What we are looking to do is that as a part of our asset allocation study, I mentioned we want to have the complete array. Like most likely, I mean, we would like to see something in the fixed income space as well. Okay. In near future.
Fair enough. That's wonderful news. I think a lot of people would like that as well, and I'm sure you'll see a lot of interest for that. So thank you so much, Mahavir, for spending your time with us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I'm sure everyone has learned a lot about, forget passive funds alone, but about how indices are constructed and built. Right. So thank you so much, Mahavir.
Nice talking to you. Pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
Okay.